Happy Monday to all and welcome into room 442. James Sharman, Mikey Singh, myself, Sara Poraria, join you after what was an impeccable weekend for some, but not all. If you can tell, one of these men are happier than other on the couch, and we must talk about Liverpool thrashing Manchester United over the weekend. 7-0. I don't think any of us expected that. It's three headlines, and we have to start with Mr. Sharman, of course. This is from the Daily Mail. How United downed tools.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite little sayings in soccer and football. Down tools basically means when a team just gave up, quit, right? Gary Neville was scathing towards United after this match. Roy Keane was too. He goes, "You do not lose 7-0 to Liverpool if you're a Manchester United player." Well, you do, because they just did. But it was one of those crazy games. It reminded me of watching Germany-Brazil in the World Cup a few years ago now, the 7-1. Like, what am I watching here exactly? It just doesn't happen in modern football. Two strong teams, huge rivals, and one just quitting. But it's a valid point. Listen, it's been such a good season for United. They won a cup last week. Everyone's saying Eric Ten Hag's, the next Alex Ferguson, everything's great. And I still believe much of that. But when I see the behavior of some of their players in that second half, when I saw the captain on the day, Bruno Fernandes, who's been impeccable this season, brilliant player, just give up. And when they're making subs late in the game, he's angry because he's not being subbed off.
Hey, was that true?
Yeah.
How do we know?
Because Gary Neville said so.
Oh my God, here we go. We don't know.
Regardless, the body language sucked.
Yeah,
Simple as that, right?
Sure.
You're a veteran on that team. You can't allow that to happen. And I was taking away from Liverpool's performance, which was fantastic in this one. But I thought the bigger story was just how United quit, how bad they were. Now they've got to bounce back. But a real gut check for that team, which is maybe not the worst thing in the world, right? Because, it's been a great season, really bad first month. Now and again, you need a little slap in the face to say, okay, calm down, boys. You're not just there yet. There's a long way to go before you can be contending for a title.
I think a loss is acceptable for United with the way they've been playing. It's hard to keep up playing football, especially every 4 days. They had beaten West Ham in the FA Cup midweek. They came back from being down there, knocked Barcelona out. We know that they're in winning the Carabao Cup. We know that they're playing well. So I think a loss would have been okay here. But exactly how you said it, it's the loss that the difference of this loss, 7 goals. And I think it is about personality and the way they carry themselves. Mikey, you're a United fan. We know this. How were you feeling in that second half? I mean, not just the goals, but like James mentioned, the character traits that these players were showing, kind of looking like they were giving up and having really bad attitudes about it.
I was laughing, to be completely honest with you. It got to the point where it was laughable. I'm not going to overreact, I think, to this. Obviously, losing 7-0 to Liverpool is unacceptable. And, we can say everything about United and the way that they perform within the 90 minutes of that game. But when you take a step back and look at their season as a whole, what is that? They're only their second loss since November. Like you said, they've been playing a ton of matches. They were due for a loss, maybe not a loss in that fashion. But you mentioned their character, Manchester United's character has been unbelievable this season. Their heart has been unbelievable this season. Some of the performances that they've been able to bounce back and wins and late draws that they've been able to salvage because of their character has been really good. And I think Eric Ten Hag has done a really good job of turning that dressing room around. I'm not going to say that this performance is going to take anything away from that. It has the potential to if this leaks over and carries over to other games in the season, but I don't think that this is going to take away from what Manchester United have accomplished so far this season, which was turning a page on a really bad era for the club and kind of starting a new one under Eric Ten Hag. And listen, we saw what happened against Brentford, and we saw the reaction to afterwards and what Eric Ten Hag put his team through. I wonder what he's going to do this time around. I wonder.
Well, James, sorry, can I ask you, if Liverpool were in United's position, playing good football, third place in the Prem, And they lost to Manchester United 7-0. Would you have the same kind of happy-go-lucky attitude as Mikey?
It's not
Well,
happy.
I think given the season to date so far, you can say that was, as Klopp said post-match, it's a freak result, right? It's not like, I mean, listen, it's a bad 45 minutes in fairness. They weren't bad in the first half. Yeah. Could have scored a couple of goals, in fact, right? It was a bad 45 minutes, a really bad 45 minutes.
Bad.
And I think the fact that it's against Liverpool is the bigger story.
That's it.
If it was against any other team outside maybe Man City, it'll be like, yeah, well, whatever. These things happen every now and again. But that game is the biggest game in English football. Even now, I think, there's such hatred between those two clubs and fan bases. That's why it makes it so, I think, scathing for the fan base. And man, you game against our arch enemies. Come on, you can't do that. So I think you're right. We'll see what the response is. And so far this year, they've responded when facing some adversity. But listen, let's also give the other team some credit.
Yeah.
So they played superbly. Mo Salah was just a man possessed.
Top
in
scorer
that
for
match.
Liverpool in the Premier League.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Right, now that's not including pre-Premier League, right?
Yeah.
Pretty good strikers back in the day, Ian Rush, Kenny Dalglish, and these types of players, right? But I mean, to beat Robbie Fowler, who's known as God on Merseyside, says everything about Mo Salah. Cody Gakpo, 2 goals. Darwin Núñez, 2 goals. I mean, Gakpo's played fewer games than Anthony, right?
Yeah.
And he's got more goals than Anthony.
Yeah, different types of players, but yeah.
I sent you a little tongue-in-cheek text before the game saying, "Oh, thank Christ, Anthony's playing." And 90 minutes later, I was really happy that he was playing as well.
Oh man, if only the viewers could see what these two were chatting about in our work group chat. It was fantastic for me to watch. But let's move on to my headline, continuing actually with Liverpool thrashings.
Oh, good.
This is from the Mirror. Bournemouth star admits Arsenal collapse feels worse than 9-0 Liverpool thrashing. Arsenal came back to beat Bournemouth over the weekend 3-2, and this was a fantastic match to watch. Honestly, I really saw Mikel Arteta's side get it together and come back and totally deserve to win that game. And I think this is why Arsenal are going to win the Prem, because they've shown their resilience. This match was all about resilience. I don't know how you guys feel, Mikey, but this to me really showed what an incredible team Arsenal have really become.
Who was the player that came on and scored the 2 goals the goal and the assist for Arsenal?
Reece Nelson.
Was it Reece Nelson?
Yeah, the 97th minute winner was Reece.
So yeah, first, I don't even know his name. That goes to tell you just how bold of a decision it was for Mikel Arteta to bring him on to the pitch and look for some momentum for Arsenal, because they were down 2-0.
9 seconds in, they were down a goal.
Yeah.
9 seconds.
I think it was the fastest goal in the Prem.
Yeah, it was.
Second fastest, I think.
This season.
This season,
yeah. So the decision for Arteta to do that. But also, I've watched Manchester United win a lot of titles under Sir Alex Ferguson. And a lot of it was because of games like that, what I just witnessed, where Fergie time is what you used to call it, where there was only 6 minutes at a time. You're going into the 7th, 8th minute of at a time there. And I'm thinking, this is going to happen, because this is how teams that go on to win titles win titles. They find a way in situations where they're hard pressed to just eke out a result, to squeeze out a result, and that's what they did against Bournemouth, and that's something that can go a long way in their title push.
Yeah, I was saying how there are those games each year which makes you turn from having a bit of you're not quite sure to being a true believer. I believe that Arsenal now are going to win the Premier League. If they don't win it, I'll be surprised. That's where I'm at now because of this result. Now, listen, I know there's a number of games left. A lot can still happen.
A lot away, though.
Self-belief.
It's a lot of games away from home.
Yes, there is.
Man
But they're not playing City. They're not
from
playing
home. They
United.
play City one more time.
Is it one more time, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
away at the Emirates. I think they play Spurs.
Yeah, but
they play
surely,
Liverpool.
but still, surely, to see a team that was down 2-0 and just come back, literally the opposite of what United did this weekend.
But it's Bournemouth, though.
Well, yeah,
It
as per the headline there, Bournemouth should feel gutted. That was a huge loss.
Oh,
for them.
absolutely.
It would have been an enormous win. Now they're rock bottom.
No.
In the Premier League.
But that's, I think, the biggest thing. They were up. They were beating the top of the table team. Whereas when they were losing to Liverpool, they were already losing. They weren't up by 2. So, I totally get it.
I think what was more impressive, though, as the weekend of the whole, is what Man City did to Newcastle. Man City dominated Newcastle, and they made a statement that they're not going away anytime soon, and they're still the favourites today.
Oh, there's
to
still
win the
twists
Premier
and
League.
turns, for sure.
Yeah.
But I just think, every year there's that game, and just seeing the
They've had a
character
couple.
that
They've had a
Arsenal
couple of
have shown.
those games, yeah.
It's the way they did it. It's the football they played. I thought it was fantastic. So we got to give Mikel Arteta and his side their flowers. Finally, Mikey's headline, MLS partnering with team behind F1 Drive to Survive documentary possible. This is from The Athletic.
I love this because, first of all, shout out F1, kicked off this weekend, fantastic race in Bahrain. The Drive to Survive is, what that did for F1 here in North America, it's drawn in so many fans.
Well, that's why golf are doing it. That's why tennis did it. They're all following suit.
Exactly. So those type of docuseries that will give you unprecedented access and be able to tell stories in a way that not many people can tell stories, that part's really exciting. And I think in Major League Soccer, when you have almost 30 teams in the league, you have so many unbelievable stories. Like, think about getting full access behind the scenes to watch Inter Miami's pursuit of Lionel Messi. How fun would that be to have a full episode deep dive into that? Because, believe it or not, they still think that they're getting Lionel Messi as of today.
You just want to see Phil Neville talking to
Phil Neville.
Messi,
Yeah, chatted with him a couple times. He's a good guy to chat to. I want to see Wayne Rooney. What's he like behind the scenes coaching at DC United, a place where his contract is up at the end of the year?
I think he swears a lot.
Yeah.
From what I've seen so far, some of the behind the scenes footage of Rooney.
I'm not very surprised about that. And yeah, selfishly, I want to see what Toronto FC are like behind the scenes with Lorenzo Insigne and Federico
I want to see that.
I want to see that.
Sure. That would be
exactly
great.
what their locker room would look like. St. Louis City SC, an expansion side that just launched, their stadium looks incredible. What's it like within being a new Major League Soccer team in a new stadium in their first year nowadays, as opposed to where it was back in 2007 when TFC launched? There's so many exciting stories, I think, within Major League Soccer. And I love the idea of launching a docuseries by the people who launched the Drive to Survive.
Yeah, I will say MLS is still growing, regardless of all the players they're signing. I think it still isn't on that level yet that we can compare it with, other major football competitions for sure. But I will say, as somebody who's watched F1 my entire life since I was a kid because of my dad, that this Netflix show completely changed the sport itself. And I know so many people who jumped on the bandwagon because of the Netflix show. So maybe this will help MLS get that kick that they need, and we'll all get on board. So who knows? It could be a great time to be an MLS fan or become a new MLS fan. In the Champions League round of 16 on Tuesday night, two English managers face make-or-break must-win matches in an effort to keep their managerial hopes alive. Graham Potter's Chelsea will welcome Borussia Dortmund, with the tie delicately balanced at 1-0, while Scott Parker's Club Brugge will travel to Portugal in an attempt to overturn their own 2-0 loss to Benfica. For Potter, a win against Leeds in the Premier League on Saturday should have given his Chelsea side a much-needed boost ahead of Tuesday night's clash. But the two teams are worlds apart in terms of form right now, with Dortmund on a 10-game winning streak in all competitions, and Chelsea managing only 2 victories all year. Goals are also a massive problem for the West London side, with Chelsea finding the net only twice in their last 630 minutes of football, despite adding more than $500 million worth of talent in the January transfer window. Dortmund travel to the Bridge with a seriously impressive away record as well, winning all of their last 5 matches away from home. Since Scott Parker took over less than 3 months ago, Club Brugge have won only twice in their last 11 outings. And the Belgian side come into Tuesday night's game on the back of a humiliating 3-0 loss to relegation strugglers Oostende. While individual errors led to Club Brugge gifting Benfica both of their goals in the first leg, there's still a gulf in class in this fixture as well. The Portuguese side are on top of the table domestically by a massive 8-point margin, and they're unbeaten in their last 13 games in all competitions. Victory on Tuesday would see Benfica's side reach successive Champions League quarterfinals for the first time in the club's history. And should they and Dortmund advance on Tuesday night, both Chelsea and Club Brugge may be looking for new managers come Wednesday morning. The Champions League is back for the second leg of the round of 16, and first up is Chelsea and Dortmund. Graham Potter's side lost 1-0 to Borussia Dortmund and now will be welcoming Dortmund into Stamford Bridge. Guys, in between these matches, we've seen Chelsea lose to Spurs, Southampton, and then win over the past weekend to Leeds because Joao Felix scored. Just kidding. It was Wesley Fofana out of all people because apparently no one on this Chelsea side can score a goal. James, you were pretty confident in Joao Felix going into the weekend, but Dortmund are looking fantastic right now. Unbeaten in 10.
Winning 10 straight in all competitions.
Exactly. And now, Chelsea have the home advantage, but does that even mean anything at this point?
Doesn't mean anything. That's a great question. I'm not entirely sure. The pressure is on them, but I mean, getting that monkey off their back, a win finally on the weekend, albeit against Leeds, I mean, so what? But a win is a win, I suppose. It takes a bit of pressure off Graham Potter. And at this point, all they're fighting for really is Champions League. And the question is, does Graham Potter survive this if they lose? And I think he should. Will he? I mean, Todd Bowley's shown himself to be reactive in many ways, but they're not going to, as we discussed last week, they're not going to be relegated. They're not going to finish in the Champions League spots. So why fire him now, right? I think you give him to the end of the season and then see what happens in the summer. Maybe more candidates are available to you. But it's tough. Listen, against Dortmund in the first league, they were really good. They hit the crossbar. Great goalkeeping from Dortmund. There's a clearance off the line. In the end, Adeyemi with a superb goal. I mean, it was a great goal, but awful defense as well, which isn't really Graham Potter's fault. So listen, they could have won that game, I think. But as we keep hearing, and I hate this saying more than most sayings, it's a results-oriented business. Of course it bloody is, right? But they have to get results. So I think they can actually get something out of this one. I have a suspicion.
That's what I'm thinking the same thing with this Chelsea team. They're a good squad. They've played well, but haven't turned their games into results yet. This weekend was the first step in sort of that right direction where they got a result. Now, could they build on that momentum? We'll see. Dortmund, they're coming off a really emotional game with RB Leipzig, where they came away with the victory. But when you look at Dortmund, they're in the heat of a title race in Bundesliga. And we know
difference right behind Bayern.
Yeah, and so we know what that can take out of a team, especially when they're a team like Dortmund, who, quite frankly, isn't the deepest squad in the world. They're not meant to be competing in multiple competitions. It's just not the way that they're built. And they're going to go to Stamford Bridge, which, what's so special about Dortmund, we watch Dortmund games all the time, that their stadium and their fans, they give them so much. So how can they match that same intensity they had last time, where they only won 1-0 in a game where Chelsea were showing that they were capable of hanging with Dortmund? I don't think this is a write-off by any means. I think this is still a fixture, and I wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea pulls something out.
If Chelsea lose, is Potter out?
No, because they have, like James said, there's nothing left to play for. He's going to be the guy that sort of falls on the sword here. And listen, in the last, how many games left? Like 12, 13 games left in the Premier League season. If Chelsea take 30 out of 36 points, 33 out of 39 points, he's still going to be their manager next season. I don't think it's going to be make or break right now. They're not going to fire him mid-season. I don't think there's
no point.
There's no point. There's players are still getting acclimated.
I mean, they didn't care about money apparently, but what it would cost them makes no sense whatsoever.
All right, well, let's shift our focus to the second match on Tuesday. Club Brugge will travel to Lisbon to play Benfica, who, let me remind you, are unbeaten at home all season in all competitions. Benfica won the last match 2-0, and since then, top of the Portuguese league. Well, Club Brugge had a really tough loss over the weekend, 3-0 to Ostend in the domestic league. They're sitting fourth there. Guys, not to beat around the bush, but this one has Benfica written all over. I think Club Brugge had a great run in the group stage, and credit to them there, but I think their time has come.
It's over, yeah. This leg for me, this match is, tie is completely over. Benfica, as you mentioned, they were one of my dark horses months ago to go on and win this whole thing because they've been so good. And you mentioned all competitions. They've, only lost 2 games, and it's to the same team. So they're unbeaten in the Champions League. Most of their domestic league, they're unbeaten. They've only lost a few cup ties. Like, this team is so good. And when you look at their squad, the quality of players that they have, really good too. And even though they've lost Enzo Fernandez, they've found a way to still keep their momentum going. And Club Brugge, like you mentioned, they're coming off a 3-0 victory, and there's already whispers and chatter about Scott Parker's
Well, he said it himself.
tenure.
He said himself, right?
What'd he say?
He said, "I'm, there's every reason to be concerned about my future."
There
here.
it is, right? About his future as head coach at Brugge. It's not looking good as
Yeah.
much as I want Tajon Buchanan to do well.
I mean, don't we all? But I think Scott Park only has 3 wins in their last 11 matches.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not been a
exactly.
good fit since he's joined. I think it looks like they've gotten much worse being under him.
Well, I mean, but he was there because they fired the last guy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no, of
So
course.
this has been a season-long
Exactly.
issue right now. And Benfica, listen, at home, I think in the Champions League, they lost twice since 2020 to Liverpool and to Bayern Munich. Right, at home, they're a beast, right? Roger Smith's done such a great job there. Are they a dark horse for the whole thing? How great would it be, by the way, to see Benfica win this thing?
Benfica Napoli.
No, Napoli. Sorry, Napoli has to win.
But for the
I
good of the
want them to
tournament,
win.
either one, right? I mean, that would be amazing.
Napoli-Benfica final?
Yeah.
I'd take that.
Can you imagine? All right, guys, really quick. I want your predictions. Who's going through both matches, James?
All right, I'm gonna go Chelsea
Whew.
and Benfica.
I know I hyped up Chelsea. I'm gonna go Dortmund and
You're the
Benfica.
I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. Yeah,
Dortmund,
there's no reason to
Benfica.
think Dortmund can't handle this, but
What do you think?
Surprise, surprise. I agree with you. This is a rare occasion. I am going for Dortmund and Benfica as well. But we will see what happens. Those are Tuesday's round of 16 matches, and we'll be back for more with Wednesday's games. Another winless match for Toronto FC as they draw Atlanta over the weekend, 1-1. Once again, Federico Bernardeschi coming to the rescue. Michael Singh, Sara Poraria. Mikey, what's your takeaway from this match? I know it's only the second game of the season. We don't want to get too deep here, but you know, they scored Bernardeschi 52nd minute, and then 8 minutes later, concede a draw. Not the best match again.
I think it was it's a good point on the road is the best way I would say it, because you head into that match and you ask most TFC fans before the game if you would take a point on the road against Atlanta United, a place they've never won in regular season history 7 times. I think TFC fans would take that 10 times out of 10. Now, if you look at the game as a whole, like diving into the game, it wasn't a great performance by the team whatsoever. There was some positives. I thought Sean Johnson was really good. I thought their defense improved a lot. Mark Anthony Kaye was good in the midfield. Same with Michael Bradley. Brandon Cervania, I thought, had a really good debut. But then I think bigger picture wise, the way that they played is not really inspiring. And it's not a method of success for the team moving forward. If they play like that more times than not, they're going to lose. But it's a point on the road. They end a 6-game winless or losing streak dating back to last season. So, you take it, I guess, because it's on the road.
Okay, let's talk about Sean Johnson, though. You just brought that up. He had a fantastic game. It looks like he's kind of coming into his own. But do you feel that he's kind of getting left on his own there by his defense? Because some of those chances that Atlanta had, let me just mention this, 16 shots on target. Sorry, 16 shots, only 6 on target versus Toronto's 4.
Yeah.
Sean Johnson really, really saved TFC, I think, on Saturday.
Yeah, no, that's why they went out and invested so heavily and tried to recruit Sean Johnson so passionately. Like, he's as advertised, right? I think when you sign Sean Johnson, based on what he's done in Major League Soccer, that was probably the one position you're least concerned about. It was the safest gamble because he's done it for so long and you know what you're getting out of him. What TFC got out of Sean Johnson is what we've seen for so many years that he did with New York City FC. Are they leaving him out to dry? I wouldn't say that. I think a lot of the chances that TFC allowed were actually not the most dangerous chances. When you look at, you mentioned 16 shots and the amount that Atlanta dominated possession, 67% to 33%, there was only 0.9 expected goals. So that wasn't like Atlanta United were carving TFC up and getting in dangerous areas like we've seen TFC last season. I thought defensively they held a little bit stronger, which was one of the positives. Like I said, it's not a recipe for success. And more times than not, Sean Johnson may give up more than one goal in that occasion. I thought the goal that they gave up was actually a bit unfortunate. 2 deflections, and he didn't really have a chance on it. But I think overall we can say that Sean Johnson probably helped TFC steal a point.
Yeah, I definitely think it's great that they invested in him. We know how much TFC needed a proper keeper, somebody who really also has the experience. Let's also shift our focus, though, to Federico Bernardeschi. Scores a goal in his own pretty much. What I found interesting about this was Richie Larea was making a run while Bernadeschi had the ball, and he could have just sent it to him. But I feel like Bernadeschi does not have a lot of trust in players. And we're talking about Larea, who I think is one of Toronto's more prominent players with experience and also talent. But he decided in the end to cut in and take the shot on his non-dominant left foot. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because from the first game and to this game, I feel like he's kind of losing faith or maybe trust because he's taking a lot of chances on his own. Am I being too critical here, or is that something that you can also see as well?
I think there are times where he is trying to do too much on his own. I don't think that was one of those times, though. I thought he made the right decision because the defender, if you watch, he drops off a little bit to kind of cheat on Richie Larea's run.
Well, he scored the goal.
So, yeah, obviously, in hindsight, which was such an important part of the play, underrated part of the play, because we've seen in times Richie Larea continuously make that run down that right side. It's a dummy run, draws the defender, and it allows you to cut inside. Teams don't want Bernadeschi to cut in on his left foot. He's so dangerous with it. We've seen him make teams pay already, so the second that you give him that space, he's going to take it. There are times, though, during the game where, yeah, he does try and do too much. But at the same time, you have to wonder, is there really a better option right now on this TFC team moving forward when Lorenzo Insigne is out? Like, you look at who his striking partners were throughout the game. I thought Diomande was, let's just say, a really forgettable performance. He had 12 touches in the first half, and he had 6 giveaways. Diomande was not inspiring whatsoever. When you're trying to link up with him, I'm not sure. I think you'd rather see Bernadeschi try and create something on his own than at times link up with Diamante in the way that he was playing. Ayo Akinola came in. I thought he was a little bit better. He linked up a little bit better with Bernadeschi, allowed TFC to get more going offensively. And then Hugo Mbonge, who's an 18-year-old. I think that was only his second MLS appearance. You're not really going to expect much out of that. So up top, there's not really many options for Bernadeschi to connect with his teammates. And I think that's why we're seeing it. It's a byproduct of that. But listen, he's a designated player in Major League Soccer. They are paid to make differences, to make plays, to create something out of nothing at times. That's the way the league is structured. And I think that's what we're seeing out of Bernadeschi, especially with no Insigne.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. Let's speak about, though, Diomande and the continuous injury concerns for TFC. Bob Bradley pulls him just before the half ends, pretty much getting him off as quick as he could after, picking up that injury. We know Lorenzo Insigne is out for the foreseeable future as of right now. Diomande comes off. Are we concerned about the continuous injuries that it seems like TFC are picking up, as well as maybe the lack of depth right now?
And Ayo Akinola will add to that mix too, because the reason why he was subbed off and near the end of the game was because his hamstring tightened up too. Now, it's not necessarily just injuries, it's the type of injuries. It's muscle injuries.
Yeah.
And that, especially as you mentioned, with TFC's lack of depth and the fact that maybe it is a bit of bad luck that it's happening to all of their attacking players, but their depth is going to be seriously tested here down the stretch. Like, the biggest question now is if Diomande can't go and Ayo Akinola can't go, who are you starting at number 9? Is it potentially Bernadeschi going to slot in there and DeAndre Kerr maybe starts on the outside? Maybe DeAndre Kerr starts at striker. I don't see him giving Hugo Mbonge or Jordan Peruz a start quite yet. The positive news, though, takeaway from all of that is Bob Bradley said he was hopeful that Lorenzo Insigne would be making his return next week and in time for the home opener against Columbus. So hopefully that all of these injuries aren't severe. But yeah, it is a concern for sure.
I think as well, because we saw that this match, they were struggling to put shots on target, that now you're taking, basically the guys that are meant to be doing it off the pitch as well. I am a little bit concerned, but I'm happy to hear that Bob Bradley is hopeful on Lorenzo.
Hopeful.
We'll see. But TFC take on Columbus Crew, home opener at BMO Field. So hopefully the fans will bring that energy. This match is March 11th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern.